The room was silent, except for the faint hum of electronics, when a sudden burst of static erupted, rattling the air like a violent shiver. Michael's hand froze above the console, his breath caught in his throat. Then a voice, low, cold, unshaken, slipped through the chaos saying, "They're already here." The words sank into his bones like ice, sending an invisible tremor through the entire room. Outside, sirens wailed faintly in the distance, swallowed by the thick night air. For a heartbeat, the world felt suspended, as if holding its breath. Michael's mind churned with disbelief, yet his chest burned with an instinctive dread. The static returned, but now it twisted into something more deliberate. An alien cadence, layered with impossible frequencies. Screens flickered violently, filling the air with ghostly green light. His pulse raced, every sound amplified. Somewhere deep inside, he knew this was no broadcast. It was a message. And it wasn't meant for everyone. It was meant for him. The voice was gone, swallowed by the static. But the damage was done. Michael stared at the console as if it might breathe again. A thin sheen of sweat clung to his forehead. The air felt heavier now, charged with something unseen. His stomach churned with the weight of an unspoken truth. The message was not random. It was deliberate, targeted. He could feel its weight pressing into his skull like invisible hands. Outside the window, a gust of wind rattled the frame, and for a moment he thought he saw movement in the darkness beyond. He shook his head, trying to dismiss it, but the thought clung like a parasite. "We've been waiting for you," the voice had said. Every repetition in his mind twisted the words deeper. He had no idea how, but the message wasn't just a warning. It was a summons. The console flickered once more, casting long, fractured shadows across the room. Michael reached out, fingertips grazing the edge of the main screen. His pulse thudded in his ears, louder than the static. Something inside him resisted the urge to shut it all down. Instead, he leaned closer. The alien frequency shifted, modulating into something almost like speech, but deeper, stranger. His eyes narrowed, searching for patterns in the chaos. The symbols on screen pulsed in time with his heartbeat. He didn't notice the faint movement in the reflection until it was gone. A sharp crack of thunder split the silence, shaking the room. Michael jerked back from the console, heart hammering. The rain intensified, beating against the glass like 1,000 tiny fists. He glanced toward the window again, but the darkness outside offered no answers, only the distorted reflection of his own worried face. A sudden spike in the static made him wince. Then, hidden beneath the noise, a new sound emerged. Soft, deliberate, almost human. It was whispering his name. Michael's knees felt weak as he backed away from the console, yet his eyes never left it. The whispering stopped, replaced by a low, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through the floor. His breathing quickened, each inhale sharp and shallow. He glanced toward the door, torn between running and staying. Then, without warning, the screens went black, every one of them. In the darkness, the hum grew louder, wrapping around him like a living thing. His hand hovered over the main power switch, but deep down he knew it wouldn't matter. Whatever had reached out to him had already arrived. Michael sat alone at his small kitchen table, the muted hum of the refrigerator barely masking the noise in his head. The alien voice replayed over and over, as if etched into the walls themselves. His coffee had gone cold, untouched, yet he clutched the mug like it might anchor him to reality. Shadows moved with the flicker of the old light bulb overhead, stretching unnaturally long across the walls. He thought of the words again, "We've been waiting for you." The weight of them pressed against his chest, until breathing felt like a chore. He remembered his father's final warning, whispered with trembling lips. "One day, you'll understand why you must hide." Until now, it had seemed like the ramblings of a dying man. But tonight, those words were no longer just memory. They were prophecy. A sudden vibration rattled the table, jolting Michael's attention to his phone. The caller ID was hidden. He hesitated, his thumb hovering above the screen. Outside the window, the rain tapped a relentless rhythm, masking the sound of his quickening breath. Against every instinct, he answered. At first there was only static, then a voice, calm but heavy with something unspoken. Michael, it's time. His name stretched unnaturally, as though spoken by more than one mouth at once. His skin prickled, every nerve screaming to hang up. But before he could respond, the call cut off, leaving the line dead, and the apartment colder than before. He set the phone down slowly, as though afraid it might speak again. Then, from the corner of his eye, he caught a flicker of movement outside. He turned toward the window, and there it was, a tall figure, motionless in the downpour, its face hidden in shadow. It didn't move, yet its presence was undeniable, pinning him in place with a silent, unseen weight. Michael blinked, and in that instant, the figure was gone. His heart pounded as he stepped closer, pressing his forehead to the cold glass. The street was empty, save for the glistening pavement, reflecting the orange glow of street lamps. But he knew he had seen it. Things like that don't just vanish. The lights in the apartment flickered once, twice, then steadied, casting everything in a strange stillness. Michael's chest tightened. He crossed the room and locked the door, his fingers trembling on the latch. That's when the sound came, a faint, deliberate knock, 3 short taps. He froze. Seconds passed in suffocating silence before the knock came again, identical in rhythm. He stepped forward slowly, each creak of the floorboards loud in the quiet. Peering through the peephole, he saw nothing but the dim hallway. Yet he could feel it, the certainty of being watched. His hand dropped from the door. This wasn't over. The air shifted, colder now, enough to make his breath cloud faintly. Somewhere above him came a slow, deliberate creak, like weight pressing on the ceiling. Michael's gaze followed the sound upward, his heartbeat thundering in his ears. This was no neighbor. The building was old, but its noises were familiar to him. This was foreign. He backed toward the kitchen, eyes locked on the ceiling. The hum from earlier seemed to return, vibrating faintly through the floor, through his bones. His instinct screamed at him to run, but his legs refused to move. Something was here, unseen but impossibly close. Michael's phone buzzed again, this time with a message. No number, just coordinates. His stomach sank as he recognized the location, an abandoned government relay station miles outside the city. Memories of classified files he'd once glimpsed in a stolen folder flashed through his mind, projects stamped with eyes only. The connection between the message, the voice, and this place was too perfect to be coincidence. Against his better judgment, he grabbed his jacket and keys. The night outside was colder, sharper, the city's noise fading into a heavy, unnatural quiet. As he slid into his car, the streetlights flickered and died, one by one in the rearview mirror. He didn't need to be told, he was being watched. The drive was long, each mile swallowed by thick fog curling across the deserted road. Michael kept glancing at the rearview mirror, certain he saw faint headlights trailing him, always too far to confirm. His hands gripped the steering wheel tighter, knuckles pale in the dim dashboard glow. As the city vanished behind him, the radio crackled to life without warning, broadcasting the same alien frequency from before. His chest tightened. He reached to switch it off, but the knob wouldn't move. The sound grew louder, layered with whispers in a language he didn't know yet somehow understood. It was not just a warning, it was a command. The relay station loomed out of the fog like a forgotten sentinel, its rusted towers clawing at the sky. Michael parked, the engine ticking in the cold air. His breath clouded as he stepped out, the gravel crunching underfoot sounding far too loud. The chain-link fence was broken in one corner, its metal edges curled like torn paper. He slipped through, every sense alert. The building itself was silent, windows dark, but a faint green glow pulsed from within. Each step toward it felt heavier, as if the air itself resisted him. He reached the door and froze. The lock was already broken. Inside, the air was thick with dust, and something metallic on the tongue. Michael's flashlight beam cut across peeling paint, broken consoles, and empty chairs. The silence was absolute, until it wasn't. A faint shuffle echoed from deeper in the building. He followed it cautiously, the beam of light catching on faded warning signs. Restricted access. At the end of a hallway, he found a control room still alive with power. A figure stood by the main terminal, back turned. "You came," a familiar voice said. One he knew all too well. It was Daniel, his closest friend. And in that instant, Michael understood. Daniel had been expecting him. Michael's relief at seeing a familiar face evaporated as Daniel turned, his eyes reflecting the same alien green as the monitors. "You think I don't remember?" Daniel said, voice layered with an inhuman resonance. The betrayal hit like a physical blow, stealing Michael's breath. Images from years past flooded his mind. Shared missions, late-night talks, the trust they had built brick by brick. All of it, a lie. Daniel stepped closer, his movements unnervingly fluid. "You were never supposed to be free of this," he said. Michael backed toward the door, but he knew it was already too late to run. Michael's back hit the cold metal wall, his breath ragged. Daniel's eyes glowed brighter, casting unnatural light across the dust-choked room. "You've been lied to your whole life," Daniel said, his voice splitting between human tone and alien vibration. "The ones you trusted, your government, your family, were part of this from the beginning." Michael shook his head, disbelief warring with the icy weight in his chest. "You're insane," he said, but even as the words left his mouth, fragments of buried memories flashed. His father's guarded phone calls, his mother's sudden silences. Daniel stepped closer, his shadow swallowing Michael. "Your bloodline is the reason this invasion exists. You're not just caught in it, you are the trigger." Michael's voice was barely a whisper. "Why me?" Daniel tilted his head, a twisted imitation of sympathy in his expression. "Because you were born into the wrong truth." The hum of the machines grew louder, resonating with something deep inside Michael's chest. Daniel circled him slowly, every movement deliberate. "Your family's legacy was sealed decades ago. An agreement between them and us." The words landed like blows. Michael's stomach turned. "We shaped history together," Daniel continued. "Wars, revolutions, even peace, all orchestrated, and you, whether you want it or not, are the final piece of that design." The green light from the monitors flickered like a heartbeat. Michael backed toward the doorway, but the air itself seemed to resist him, thick and heavy. "You can't run from this," Daniel said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Every choice you've made has led you here. Every loss you've suffered was part of the plan." The words hit like ice. His mind replayed moments, his sister's disappearance, his father's funeral, the cryptic letters that never made sense. "They weren't accidents," Daniel said, stepping into the beam of Michael's flashlight. "They were instructions. You've just been too blind to read them." The glow from his eyes flared, and the walls seemed to tremble. The hum in the walls became a deep vibration through the floor. Michael's knees felt unsteady, his heartbeat matching the rhythm. "You think this is about war?" Daniel asked, stepping closer until their faces were inches apart. "It's about succession. You are the bridge between two worlds." Michael's throat tightened, his voice barely audible. "I'm nothing." Daniel smiled, a slow cold curve of his mouth. "You're everything." Behind him, the monitors shifted, displaying alien symbols, intertwined with what Michael recognized, his own family name. It pulsed with the same green glow as if alive. Michael's hands curled into fists. Something inside him broke and awoke. Michael took a step forward, his voice low but steady. "If what you're saying is true, then you've made one mistake. You told me." Daniel's grin widened, his glowing eyes narrowing. "That wasn't a mistake," he said. "It was the final key." The control panel sparked, filling the room with the smell of burning wires. Outside, the wind roared like a living thing, rattling the rusted walls. Michael's mind spun between rage, fear, and the terrible certainty that he could no longer go back. This wasn't just his fight, it had always been his destiny. And destiny, he realized, was something you couldn't run from. Michael's fists tightened at his sides, the hum of the alien technology around him vibrating through his bones. "You expect me to help you?" he asked, his voice sharp, shaking more from fury than fear. Daniel tilted his head, studying him like a specimen. "You don't have a choice," he said, stepping aside to reveal a pedestal in the center of the room. Resting on it was a device unlike anything Michael had ever seen, metal and crystal intertwined, pulsing with a living green light. "With this, you can end them, or become one of them," Daniel said. Michael's stomach churned. The weight of the choice pressed down on him like gravity itself, threatening to crush him before he could even move. The pedestal's glow reflected in Michael's eyes as he stepped closer, drawn against his will. The device emitted a faint hum that matched the pounding of his heartbeat. He reached out, then stopped, his hand trembling in midair. "What happens if I refuse?" he asked. Daniel's expression didn't change, but his voice dropped to something darker. "Refuse, and they'll burn this world until nothing remains." Michael felt his pulse spike. He had imagined the aliens as distant invaders, not predators with the patience to starve their prey. "Why me?" he whispered. Daniel smirked. "Because you were built for this moment." Michael's gaze dropped to the device again. It pulsed, the crystal core swirling like liquid fire. He could feel its presence in his mind, whispering promises of power and control. He imagined unleashing it against the alien forces, turning the tide, becoming the weapon they feared. But then another image came, a world where the device consumed him, hollowing him into something no longer human. He staggered back, chest tight. Daniel's voice cut through the air. "There's no middle ground. Either use it or you die with the rest of them." Michael's breath came fast, every instinct at war inside him. The building shook as a deep roar rolled through the ground. Michael looked toward the doorway. Outside, the sky glowed with an unnatural green storm. "They're coming," Daniel said calmly, as if he'd been expecting it. Michael's pulse thundered in his ears. In the distance, shapes moved within the storm, tall and spindly, shifting faster than his eyes could follow. The alien presence was no longer a broadcast. It was here. Michael turned back to the device, his breath shallow. "If I do this, it changes everything," he said. Daniel's grin returned. "Exactly." The storm's light spilled into the room, bathing them in alien fire. Michael stepped to the pedestal, his fingers curling around the device. The instant he touched it, the hum became a deafening resonance that flooded his mind with visions. Cities burning, oceans boiling, alien ships blotting out the sky. But there were other visions too, of victory, of a planet freed, of humanity standing unbroken. His knees nearly buckled under the weight of the images. Daniel stood unmoving, his glowing eyes locked on Michael. "Choose," he said. Michael's jaw clenched. This was more than survival. This was the rewriting of history. And the clock had already run out. The moment Michael activated the device, a surge of energy ripped through the room, rattling every bolt in the metal walls. The control panels exploded with light, alien symbols racing across their screens in dizzying patterns. His vision fractured, flashes of both worlds colliding in violent bursts. Outside, the storm thickened, the alien shapes now fully visible, towering over the ruins beyond. Daniel's expression shifted from satisfaction to something darker, almost reverent. "They've felt you," he said, his voice shaking with awe. Michael's grip tightened, electricity crackling along his arms. Every nerve in his body screamed at once, yet deep inside, a new strength stirred. The floor trembled as the building's structure groaned under the force of the energy surge. Michael staggered forward, his boots scraping across the metal grating. Outside, alien figures moved with impossible speed, their limbs bending in ways his mind struggled to process. One broke from the storm, its silhouette massive against the flashing sky. The device in his hands pulsed faster, synchronizing with the creature's approach. Daniel's voice echoed over the roar of the wind. "You can't just hold it, you must command it." Michael clenched his jaw, forcing the alien current through him, the power burning like liquid fire in his veins. A blinding beam erupted from the device, slicing through the night like a spear of pure energy. The nearest alien reeled, its body contorting as the light carved into it. Michael's knees nearly buckled under the force, but he held on, teeth gritted. The storm writhed in response, lightning forking across the sky in unnatural patterns. For the first time, the invaders faltered. Daniel's grin widened, his voice low and urgent. "See it? This is what you were made for?" But Michael wasn't sure if what he felt was triumph, or the first step toward losing himself completely. The alien screeched, a sound that rattled Michael's teeth and split the air like shrapnel. It collapsed into the storm, dissolving into a mist that twisted away on the wind. But victory brought no relief. The others surged forward, their forms multiplying in the dark. Michael's breathing came in ragged bursts. The device thrummed violently now, the power within it pushing against his control. Daniel stepped back, his eyes locked on Michael as if measuring the moment. "Push harder or we're finished," he said. Michael's mind screamed with the knowledge that pushing harder might destroy more than just them. Michael planted his feet, drawing on the last reserves of strength he had. The device roared, green light flooding the control room until it drowned every shadow. His skin prickled as energy tore through him, threatening to burn him hollow. Outside, the advancing aliens froze mid-stride, their forms shuddering under the force. Michael's vision narrowed to a tunnel, just him, the device, and the storm. With a final surge, the light exploded outward in a shockwave that swallowed everything. Silence followed, thick and unnatural. Michael swayed, the device still in his hands, its glow now dim and fading, but so was he. Michael stood in the wreckage of the control room, the green light gone, replaced by the dull gray of pre-dawn. Smoke curled from shattered consoles, the air heavy with the scent of burned metal. His hands still clutched the device, now dark and cold, its hum silenced. Daniel was gone, no trace, no sound, as if he had never existed. Outside, the storm had broken, revealing a sky streaked with pale light, but the silence felt wrong. Michael stepped into the open, boots crunching on debris, his breath loud in the stillness. The invaders had retreated, yet he could feel them, watching from somewhere just beyond the horizon. The landscape outside was a wasteland, twisted metal, scorched earth, and the distant silhouettes of abandoned towers. Michael walked slowly, the device hanging from his grip like dead weight. Each step stirred the ash at his feet, small spirals lifting into the breeze. The city's skyline was visible far away, but it felt impossibly distant, like a memory fading in his mind. His ears caught the faintest echo, a low hum, so soft it could be imagined. He stopped, scanning the horizon. Nothing moved, yet the feeling of being observed was stronger than ever. It wasn't over. Deep down, he knew it never would be. As he approached the edge of the city, Michael passed the remnants of battles he had never seen, burned-out vehicles, collapsed buildings, the charred skeletons of once familiar streets. The few survivors he encountered kept their distance, eyes hollow, faces streaked with soot. They didn't ask questions and he didn't offer answers. Every glance they gave him felt like a silent accusation, though none of them could possibly know what he had done, or what it had cost. The device in his hand pulsed faintly once like a heartbeat, before falling silent again. The message was clear, it was waiting. Michael stopped on a cracked overpass, looking down at the empty highways below. The world felt hollow, like something essential had been stripped away. His reflection stared back at him in a shallow pool of rainwater. Drawn, pale, older than he remembered. The quiet pressed in from all sides until it was almost unbearable. He thought of Daniel's words, of the bloodline that had brought him here, of the enemies still out there waiting. His fingers tightened on the device. Somewhere far off, thunder rumbled, not from a storm, but from engines. The next wave was already on its way. He turned from the overpass and began walking, the weight of the device pulling at his arm like an anchor. "The truth has a price," he murmured, his voice lost in the wind. The camera would have pulled back here, revealing his solitary figure moving into the distance, the world around him broken but alive. Above, the clouds shifted, and for a heartbeat, something vast and unnatural moved within them before disappearing. Michael didn't look back. The war had changed shape, but it was far from over. And somewhere deep inside he understood, this was only the beginning.